welcome to Seagull Eagle, where two rivals meet, Crystal Palace and Brighton. A podcast built on rivalry, fueled by biased banter and selective memory.
Hey, this week at Brighton, another late goal conceded and another 2 points dropped. We're really starting to look like a bottom half of the table side now.
And this week at Palace, a one-away striker, a point at Forest, Gessan joins the Eagles, and will there be more signings? Who knows?
This is Seagull Eagle.
Hello, Neil. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. How are you doing?
I'm all right, actually. We've picked a weird time to do this podcast tonight.
What do you mean?
Of you, for those of you who are listening or watching, it is actually 7:05 on transfer deadline day. Technically, the transfer window is closed. We've put this podcast together with potentially limited knowledge as to what's happened in the last 10 minutes while we were kind of logging on and all this. So we're going to try and keep a close eye, aren't we, Neil, on what's going on throughout the podcast, because obviously we don't want anything to be old news, but obviously information is current as we record.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm pressing on my buttons to see if I can find the right channels and making sure that I've got exactly what's going on in the world. But there is only one place to start. We do need to start with transfers, I think. And
absolutely, mate.
And I think we probably need to start with Palace because they have by far been the busier of the two, as we expected, obviously.
Well, yeah.
So which way do you want to start with this? Do you want to start with the good news about players coming in, or do you want to start with the one that probably?
Well, let's start with the end. It's
okay.
We'll start from the beginning, shall we?
Okay.
We'll start from the beginning. Since we last spoke, there is only one in. Actually, officially, which is obviously Evan Gessan, arrived on loan at the moment from Aston Villa until the end of season. It's a weird one, this, right? And strange for a few reasons, mostly because he only signed for Villa in the summer transfer window, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, this was news in the summer, wasn't it? Where you were like trying to get him at the same time.
Well, yeah, we were his other choice.
Right.
Back then. This is why it's so weird, right? We were his other choice back then, and he chose to go to Villa. Clearly, he made the wrong decision and is kind of rectifying that wrong now by joining us. There's an option to buy him after the loan ends, rumoured to be around the 28 million mark, which I'm pretty sure is pretty much what Villa paid for him in the summer. So they're trying to kind of recoup any loss, because obviously it hasn't particularly worked out for him at Villa.
No.
I don't know what your view on that is.
Well, he's had a few little outings, but I mean, I was expecting him to do a lot more, if I'm honest. And I think Villa have been a bit of a strange club in that sense. They bought a few players. Harvey Elliott was another one, wasn't it? And
oh, mate, what a waste.
Well, exactly. They haven't really featured. And Gessan is another one of those. He played a little bit more in Europe, but generally speaking, he's not really shown up that much. So
there's a good player. I mean, look, there's a good player in there, and I think like things I like about him. Obviously, look, he's a right winger. He can play left and central striker too, which is good, because the rate we're getting injured players, we need a bit more options up front. He's good at hold-up play, which suits us. He's strong in the air, which is something we've been missing. And kind of that hold-up play, long balls coming in high, being able to kind of get that ball, bring it down, get it under control, and then kind of, move it outwards or forwards, ideally, which is something we don't do often. I think that he's also something. I've watched quite a few videos of him because obviously I watched quite a few videos of him when he was linked with us to start off with, and then I kind of was like, nah, I ain't watching them anymore, man. You've gone to Villa. So I kind of refound them all, and I liked how he kind of, before he joined Villa, he seemed really good in, that thing where you get the ball in enemy territory, and you kind of that like link up play in them really tight areas. There's not really much room to play. He seems to be quite good at that, which is something that happens often with us, because obviously teams kind of squeeze in, don't they? So I don't know. I've got a feeling that he's going to be good for us. I think we need to give him a bit of time, but I think he's going to be good for us because, in my mind, he kind of brings back that Eze style, like a bit of rogueness that we need, and a bit of spark that we've truthfully been missing. I feel like we're we'll go into it later, but we're kind of lacking creativity, lacking the ability to take the man on, all that kind of stuff. Bit of spark, as I said. So welcome, Gesand. I take it all back if I said anything bad about you when you joined Villa, and I'm really excited to have you at the club.
Well, I mean, I can also reveal exclusively, I say exclusively, by the time everyone's watching this now, it'll be old news. But as we're talking, Andy, Palace have just confirmed as well, Jurgen Strand Larsen has been signed, sealed, delivered. So he is now a Crystal Palace player as well.
Great news that that's happened. Sad that a Brighton fan had to tell me that that's happened. Well, these are strange days we're living in.
£48 million, Andy.
Factually a little bit incorrect, I believe, because I think it's meant to be. It's 43.
It is
with
43.
£5 million worth of add-ons. Is what was rumoured. When I came on air, it was that he'd passed his medical, and everyone was saying it's still going to happen today, but. And all the media outlets are saying it's still going to go ahead if Mateta stays. But I'll be honest with you, I was still in a little unsure about it all, because I was like, where have we all of a sudden got all this money from? And being able to kind of buy without having to sell is a bit of a weird place for a Palace fan to be. But here's a question for you, Neil, and a genuine question.
Yeah.
Strand Larsen, right? Yeah. £43 million, £5 million on add-ons. We're near 50 million. That's a record transfer for Crystal Palace. Twice in one transfer window that we've broken the transfer record.
Yeah.
Have we had our pants pulled down?
Do you know what? I think the issue is with Strand Larsen that it's unproven. I think that's the issue at the moment. I think there is definitely a good striker in there. You can tell from the way he plays.
Yeah.
When you buy someone off of a team like Wolves that are not scoring, they're not winning, they're not, it's very difficult to tell. You've got to rely on, the scouting network that you've got. And I said earlier in the season that I liked him. I like Strand Larsen. There's something about him that I think was it's quite almost, what's the best way to probably put it? Well, actually, ironically, it's a little bit Mateta-esque. So I can understand the link to them. So I definitely think he's got something, and he will definitely get a lot more service at Crystal Palace. So I think with that one, I don't think your pants have been pulled down. I think you're paying a January premium. I think that's probably the best way to look at it.
Which is something that a lot of the Crystal Palace fans that I've been speaking to and seeing on socials are a little bit unsure about. I think there's a level of scepticism, probably.
Can understand that.
Which is ironic, because every transfer window when we sign a £10 million player from the Championship, we're always underwhelmed yet optimistic, I think is probably the best way to say this on transfer deadline day, and go, okay, we've signed Adam Wharton from Blackburn. Maybe he'll work out. Obviously, the history says that a lot of these players have worked out that we signed from the Championship, and that has seemed to be our kind of formula for the transfer window. But now we're in uncharted territory, right? We are spending some big money and potentially taking some quite big risks, because look, here's the way that I look at this, right? We're swapping a striker scoring blanks, right? And Mateta look at his XG, look at his returns, 16 clear chances. We talked about it all last week. With a striker that's scoring even more expensive blanks, potentially, right? And what is it? He scored 1 goal in 22 Premier League appearances. And obviously every Crystal Palace fan was watching closely last weekend at the Wolves game to watch him miss an absolute sitter, Mateta-esque miss, actually, at the weekend. I take your point about the fact that he's going to get service. Of course he's going to get service, because there's balls flying in everywhere. There's just no one that's willing to actually shoot on target at the moment. I think I need a little bit more convincing on this one. I think he's a good stylistic fit. He's tall, strong, physical. He's able to be the target man. The thing that does fill me with confidence, right? He's 3 years younger than Mateta, so therefore you can understand. Yeah, you can understand why one's more expensive than the other.
Yeah, totally. Contractually as well. He wasn't out of contract or anything like that. They only signed him, I think, last season. So
yeah. So I'm optimistic, mate.
I tell you what, mate. To give my other opinion, when you say have you had your pants pulled down, I don't think you have with Strand Larsen. I would worry about Brennan Johnson a little bit more than Strand Larsen. I think you might have paid a little bit of a premium on him because of what the club that he's come from. I think that would be my worry a little bit with him.
Yeah, and I think that again, there's already rumblings about that. But I think in terms of his recent performances, and I think everyone, well, this is the issue, right? You come in with a big price tag, and everyone expects you to hit the ground running, and do that. And my concern, obviously, with Strand Larsen is he's not on form at the moment, and he's not, right? He scored, what was it, 7 in 8 in the last 8 games of the season last year or whatever, and then he scored 1 in 22 this year. And I think that the Palace fans, after forking out nearly 50 million for him, are going to be expecting him probably to score against Brighton. Whereas I'm not convinced that that's going to happen that quickly. And that's my concern. With our form at the moment, I want someone to hit the ground running. Yeah. With Johnson, he hasn't hit the ground running too well. And I think there are already people saying, why have we spent that amount of money? And I think it's the Tottenham fans that have started that by going, cheers for that, guys, because I think you've paid a little bit over the odds there. But I think if you're a team that's struggling for luck, for chances, for form, it doesn't matter who you got in that team, does it? You've got to get the morale back. You've got to get the confidence back. And I think once the confidence comes back, the players will start to shine. So let's see.
I think the other thing to consider, Andy, in all of this is you don't have to start Strand Larsen straight away. You've got an old head still hanging about by the name of Jean-Philippe Mateta.
Mate,
what is going on today with that?
Well, do you know what? How funny. And there's a little bit of karma going on here because...
You think that is?
Well, obviously, look, Mateta to AC Milan was Mateta to Forest was the rumour last week, right? Yep. And then obviously AC
that was
Milan
never going to happen, was it? Come on.
Do you know what? I said on last week's podcast, crazy things happen to Palace, and I wouldn't have been surprised. But obviously, when AC Milan come in, Mateta's like, much better fancy that, right? They were offering 30 mil, apparently. We were like, yeah, let's do this. He went for a medical, and then I think then the head doctor came over to Paris and was like, I think we need to have a look at this knee a little bit more, Mr. Mateta. What's going on here? And then they've, by all accounts, it looks, as we speak, like they've pulled out. And we all know that I think, there's been talk about the fact that his form suffered because of his knee, and that he was putting off having surgery because he didn't want to, he wanted to come good, and obviously wants to play in the World Cup for France and all the other stuff. So I think he's kind of been trying to play through it. But now the rumours are that it's looking likely that he might have to stay. But I don't know what you can see now, because you've got the ability a little bit more than me and maybe to get on the internet right now. But there was strong rumours still about 20 minutes ago that Juventus were potentially still interested. But you tell me.
So my understanding is that no, there's no Juventus. They were thinking about it earlier in the window, but they haven't come back in. That was just a rumour. So my understanding is now that he's set to stay at Crystal Palace. That's it. I mean, it's too late in the window to do anything else. The window's shut here by time of recording. We've just closed the window and it's done.
Do you know what is actually really funny is that, was it 2 days ago or was it yesterday? Mateta shared on social media just an emoji of, I don't know what the official title of said emoji is, but kind of a frustrated face with like steam coming out of his nose. That emoji. And that was clearly because he felt that Palace were potentially blocking the move. How ironic that wasn't and isn't the case, that we've still signed Strand Larsen and it was his own knee that's letting him down.
He also unfollowed Crystal Palace account and things like that as well. So changed all his socials a bit early. Went a little bit too soon.
Well, and I mean, Gay could tell him that wasn't a great idea. So this is going to be really interesting now because he is potentially stuck with us until whenever. And I think the other thing to consider here is that his value is going to be going down if he don't play, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
The
bigger worry, I think, more than any of that, is for the club as well, because you could be stuck with a player here that no one wants to sign because of his dodgy knee. Like, as soon as you get a bad medical like that, I mean, that could be a real issue. You might find come the end of the season that suddenly he's on some terribly cut price because no one wants to sign him, and you want to offload him, obviously. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but when you have a bad medical like that, that's going to follow you around. You can bet the next opportunity for him to move, there's going to be a huge amount of medicals involved to check his knee out. So,
well, and also his value is going to go down now as well, because that's another 6 months or whatever it is until the summer transfer window. So, not the great. I do hope, because like, doesn't often happen to Palace, but mostly Chelsea and clubs like that, where everyone thinks it's all done, and then at about 10 o'clock tonight, it comes out that something's happened. Yeah. So I would imagine that Palace are incredibly keen to get something over the line, even if it's a loan, because if he goes out and carries on playing, his value would stay where it is potentially. So
we will have to
see
wait
on
and
that
see.
one.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree.
I think they're looking at the whole squad as a whole now, and we've just let Raksaki go.
So I was going to ask you about that.
City.
Yeah, you've got some others, haven't you, on this list? Really, we probably do need to talk about those quickly as well. So you've got Raksaki, and he's gone to Stoke.
He's gone to Stoke till the end of the season. No option or obligation to buy or anything like that, which I'm quite happy about, because I still think he might come good for us. So, yeah, he's gone out. It's kind of, I guess, left a gap, and obviously, look, we know we need some squad depth, right? So I think the only concern is that Palace, without going into it too much, and we can talk about this in another episode once we know exactly what's happened, but I think if you look at the recent signings, the Glasner signings, we've addressed the issue of some of the squad depth, but actually most of the Glasner signings are the ones that have been sat on the bench. So it's about the fact that anyone we sign now really has got to be a starter, and it's a bit of a concern for me. So I don't know. Let's see. Truthfully, Neil, I don't know much about this guy, so let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. I think we've also sent out Teo Adamarola, who has had a loan deal agreed with Sheffield Wednesday. That happened earlier on in the week.
Oh, okay.
And that's till the end of the season. And I think that's very much a development one, where he's been out experiencing League One teams. And I think he's had 2 or 3 loans in the last couple of years to League One. And I think the team were keen to let him experience Championship football. So he's a left wing back, and he plays for Republic of Ireland youth. So yeah, he's got a good future ahead of him. So it'd be really interesting to see how he gets on at Sheffield Wednesday there as well. And I think that's, pretty much, mate. The only thing that we haven't addressed, Neil, is the issue of a centre back, which has all gone very quiet. And I've got a long list here. We've had Ashampong from Chelsea, Ordonez from Club Brugge, Creswell, not Cheswell. Who's that? Creswell from Toulouse, Ruben Cliver, son of Patrick, from Lyon, Ethan Pinnock from Brentford. They've all supposedly we've put in 4 different bids from that list, and nothing's come up, and the club's gone. So I would assume now that we're not panicking and holding out for summer for better value and more options. And true to Palace form, one of them 4 or 5 that I've just mentioned will probably end up coming through the door in summer. Yeah. I think, given the fact that Chadi Riyad's now come back, and he looked all right, he managed 2/3 of the game at the weekend, I would assume that they're probably less panicky now, given the fact that Riyad's come back. So, unless, of course, there's any late twist, Neil. Anyway, mate, listen, that's enough about Palace, and obviously we'll find out later what's actually happened. Let's talk about Brighton. How many Greek teenagers have you signed? Who's walked out the door, and how many veterans are returning? Let's go.
Okay. This is not going to take too long, Andy. Right. So I think we need to start by saying we weren't expecting, obviously, too much this window, and it's proved that way. There has been a couple of little last-minute surprises, which has shocked quite a few fans. So, first thing that we knew about last week, and it's been confirmed now, is Tommy Watson has gone on loan. He's gone on loan for the rest of the season to get some game time to Millwall.
Yeah, saw that.
Yeah, so that's fine. That's a good little loan for him. As long as he gets lots of minutes and gets his strength back up and starts playing some minutes, I'm happy with that.
I feel like that's a good thing, I think.
Totally agree with you. He wasn't getting close, really. He was getting a few minutes here or there, so I understand that one. The next one was the one that was the biggest sort of scratchy head moment, and it happened very first thing this morning. And that was Brajan Gruda has been sent out on loan to RB Leipzig. Season-long loan because, and I quote, Brajan wants to have more game time so that he can try to get into the Germany World Cup squad.
Yeah.
We can't give him the extra minutes here, so therefore, he's gone out on loan. That's basically, I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically the statement, right? And that I scratch my head a little bit with that one. Now, not in its, if I look at it just purely on its own as a concept, sending Brajan Gruda out on loan is a very good idea. I think he does need the minutes. He does need to learn and get better and all that sort of stuff. My concern is, why are we sending him to the Bundesliga when, for me, he needs to be playing either Premier League football or top of the Championship football, because he needs to toughen up a bit. He doesn't stop diving. He's not quick enough on the ball a lot of the time, his decision-making. So for me, he needs to stay in the English game.
No, I understand that, mate, and you kind of would have hoped that would have happened, because I thought that when I get the fact that he wants to go to the World Cup and all that kind of thing, but also it feels like maybe that's where he wanted to go.
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly what it is, which I sort of...
Because footballers are human beings, right? If he
well,
wants to go
maybe,
there,
but then, for the club, I think it's better to send him out somewhere here. I just don't see how this is going to, yes, of course it's going to give him game time, absolutely, and that's great. But I just think it's not the right league to really help him develop. That's where I'm sitting at the moment with it. So
I guess at least he don't play against you.
Well, so. That's a good point, but he wouldn't if he was loaned anyway. So,
good point.
So that was a surprise, right? But then at the same time, you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, if we're sending Tommy Watson out, one of our wingers, and we're sending Brajan Gruda out, who is a winger come number 10 sort of area, he's played on the wing mostly. Okay, well, we must be getting someone in, right? Something must be happening, right? And the only player that we have got in since getting Pascal Gross in right at the beginning of the window, right on the last day, is we recall Matt O'Reilly from Marseille.
Saw this.
So he mysteriously left last day of the transfer window at the end of August, beginning of September. And now he's back again. I mean, Marseille have finished their Champions League run. They're out, so maybe there's less games to play. I don't know. But so we've got him back to shore up the midfield. Like I'm really confused by it at the moment. I don't really get it. Like he's a midfielder that Fabian Hürzeler obviously wasn't playing in midfield. He was trying to play him either as a 10 or something like that. So he's coming back. So he's a more experienced player, and he's a player who has, by all accounts, been playing okay at Marseille. But we are filling up now our team with midfielders, and not particularly fast players either, by the way. Matt O'Reilly is one speed, very much like Pascal Gross. So we've got a plethora now of midfielders and only two wingers, really, two fit wingers that I can see. We've got Mitoma and Minte, and Minte doesn't even get on the pitch at the moment. So it's a lot of
You were upset
scratching
when
heads.
he left, though, mate. You were upset when he left, and I remember you having a little cry about it, and, I comforted you, and I said, he'll probably be back, and now he's come back, and you're still whinging. So
I'm not
feel
whinging about him,
Yeah.
Andy. Thank you, though, for that lovely
It's
picture
all right.
you've given everyone. I think it's more about the fact that it just feels very last minute again. It was like him disappearing at the last day of the window without anyone knowing, and then suddenly he's come back. Like, and why are we getting rid of Gruda if we haven't got anyone else coming in that's his like, or Tommy Watson? Like, we've got Solly March, who's coming back after a horrendously long injury. There's no way he's going to be able to really play enough games to get any sort of like rhythm in or anything like that. So he's an injury risk from that perspective. And then you've got players like Ferdy and De Kuyper who could maybe, play on the wing, or you've got Jorginho Rutter, who played there on Saturday, who was a nightmare on the wing. So I'm just really confused what we're going to be doing for the rest of the season and how we're going to be playing, because we're one injury away from just another huge gap in our squad.
I get it. I get it. I think the only thing we have to consider in these situations of people being recalled on loan and stuff like that is we always assume that it's the club's decision, because ultimately it normally is. But obviously there are people involved in this, as I said earlier, and there might be other reasons that he's coming back, and it might be that he's unhappy there or whatever it would be, and the club have gone, yeah, no, look, you can come back, as opposed to the fact that they needed him back. I don't know, but
time will tell,
see.
I suppose. Like you say, so yeah. From a window point of view, there's a couple of others. Caelan Vickers has gone back out. I think he's actually been sold now. Who was a player, wasn't really on the periphery anyway. He was at Reading before that on loan. And Andrew Moran, another one who I remember at the beginning of this. Well, exactly. He's never really played for the first team. Good midfielder, played a lot in the Championship. Went to LAFC in the summer for a nice gig for half the season.
Nice holiday, isn't it?
Yeah, and then he's come back, and I think he's off to maybe Preston. I haven't checked that one, to be fair, but he's off somewhere. So the few ones of the periphery, as it were, going out. But basically, from our perspective, it's been a very quiet window. When you look at it in its entirety, it's basically Pascal Gross, and that's it.
But also, you did a lot of business, didn't you? And I think your club strategy is not to panic and buy people in January, because ultimately the people who do business in January are the people that need to do business or see value in something. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, mate. I reckon you probably already got deals done for the summer, and you got people ready and waiting to go. So because you're that organised.
Yeah, I understand that, and I think for a lot of fans looking at it on social media, there's a lot of fans that are unhappy that we haven't signed anyone, specifically a striker, because obviously, as I've said before, we're sort of relying that Welbeck's going to stay fit all season, and also relying on other players to fill in when we haven't particularly got an out-and-out goal scorer as such, apart from Welbeck. So there are a few unhappy voices out there, but at the same time, I think Brighton always, as you say, act and play on the long-term game. They always do, and they never really look at it short-term. So they're extending their squad by bringing people back from loan. They've got Pascal Gross back is a great signing, like it really is. Yeah. And I think we have to remember that has happened, and we have got him back. It just looks now like a little bit of an unbalanced squad. I think that's the only concern. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but it's still a big squad. And Matt O'Reilly, go on.
No, I was going to say, ultimately, you have to. It was that question we asked ourselves after the summer transfer window shut, which is that is the squad stronger and better than it was before the window opened? And I guess from your perspective, you've got to look at that and go, you haven't had any massive people leaving, and you've got a few people back that potentially, yes, you didn't need, but also you got a stronger bench than you had before you started.
Yeah.
And from a Palace perspective, I guess, look, we've lost Gay, but we've had a couple of big ins, and you would argue we are in a better situation potentially than we were to start off with. So,
definitely. I mean, you've definitely had a good window, haven't you? I mean, from the perspective of what you were trying to get at the beginning, like you say, I think having the extra attacking options, you're going to get 3 extra attacking options in this window,
which is
keep Mateta.
Well, do you know what's really funny? Because obviously, while you were talking, then I was able to just take my eyes off the screen for 2 seconds, really unprofessionally, and just double check it for myself.
This is not the BBC. We're okay. Sorry.
And it does say, Sky Sports, Mateta's January move will not, and it's not in capital letters, happen. So there's 2 funny things that are just going through my mind here, just to kind of finish this transfer window off, because there's always humorous things that happen in transfer windows, and I think this will go down as one of them, which is that, yes, as you say, Mateta has now got to re-enter Selhurst Park and go, I love you all, really, after putting that ridiculous emoji and deleting everything on Facebook, and bearing in mind there was booze when he was there last week anyway. This is going to be interesting. And then the other funny side of this, which is really making me chuckle inside right now, Neil, which is that Steve Parish is sat there. I mean, historically, keeps himself busy on transfer deadline day. While all the gay stuff was going on at the end of summer, he was in the gym, apparently, whilst the deadline window shut, and he came out and went, "Oh, what's happened, guys?"
Did I miss something?
This time, you could imagine he's probably come out of the gym or from a Pilates class or God knows what he's doing, and come out and gone, and he's gone, "Oh my God, we still got Mateta and we've just spanked 50 million on Larson." So he's picked up the phone and gone, Woody Johnson? Yeah, mate. Yeah, you know me, Steve? Yeah. Mate, have you got a spare 50 mil? Because we might be in here. Might have a problem. Because the last time we threw around cash like that was never. Let's see what happens there. But yeah, there's going to be some spicy things going on around that board, I think, tonight. Going, have we actually got enough money for this? Yeah, interesting. But we know that from a PSR point of view, Neil, we are all right and we could afford to spend a lot more. So there we go.
Okay, mate. Listen, thank you. I think that'll have to end the transfer talk. I think we talked about it enough. So we probably need to spend a few minutes going back in time and talking about the weekend. Not that either of us probably want to that much, but where do we want to start? What do you want to do?
Mate, I mean, I've done a lot of talking, to be fair, so I'm happy to start with you because I feel like, the Brighton transfer business was reasonably boring. You didn't particularly do your homework because, you were like a couple of people left. I don't know where they're going. So it's your time to now redeem yourself, Neil, and tell us about your lovely, lovely game at the weekend where you sent me a text after the game, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was something like FFS. Not a game. Which I just replied.
It was like the meme of the guy who's in a board meeting who just gets up from the board meeting and jumps out the window. That was basically it. Can
I just say though, are you proud of me because I didn't message you first?
And no, I know.
Although I wanted to.
I could feel it. Do you know what I mean? I thought I'd just get it over and done with. I'll just message him and then get it over and done with. So let's do it.
Go on.
Brighton 1, Everton 0. Oh no, 1.
Mate, you got a bit of a history of this.
No shit.
Is there a stat? Have you heard a stat about it? How many last minute goals you've let in extra time?
I can't be asked to even look. I'm so depressed about it. I mean, what I would say is if you think about just this season, in particular, the things that go through my mind are obviously Fulham last week, Fulham at the beginning of the season, first game of the season, they also scored in the last 30 seconds of the game. And also, if you think about Aston Villa, although they beat us quite considerably, the first half, the end of the first half, we were, if you remember, 2-0 up at one point, and they came back because we didn't play to the whistle, we didn't concentrate. I'll get onto all of that when I get to it, but yeah, we've got previous, mate, and something needs to change big time. So look, let me just I'll scoot through the game a little bit. A few things from my perspective to talk about. So lineups wise, Gomez was out with a knock. Result. So we had Jorginho back in the squad and back in the starting 11. The only concern was really trying to work out where everyone was going to play, as it always is with Fabian Hürzeler. Jorginho this time was playing on the right wing. Now, he's not a right winger. He's not a number 9. He's a number 10, and that's just the way it is. We can't do much else about him. And so when we lined up, although he was on the right wing, I think the way we played when we had the ball was very much he was in the very much a bit like Crystal Palace, where they have like 2 number 10s behind the striker, sort of either side of the striker. So it was very much like that. Gross on one side of Welbeck, with Jorginho Rutter the other, and then Ferdy was moved over to right back and was very much playing like a right wing back up and down constantly. So we were very sort of unbalanced, but on purpose in that sense, very much on the right hand side, tucking in to try and attack. So otherwise, there was no real changes. De Kuyper comes in for Ferdy onto the left, and as I say, Ferdy on the right. So otherwise, it was pretty much as we were expecting, and then. I mean, the first half, Everton really couldn't be bothered to attack. Albion did their absolute worst to try and attack. It was one of the dullest first halves I've ever seen, I think. And I think when you look at match of the day highlights, I think there was like 30 seconds because it was basically 2 chances for Brighton and that was it.
I don't know though, mate, because I watched the highlights reel, the one that goes around, I think it's the Sky Sports one, where you kind of, if you look at the match review and it's got the little video at the top. And from the first half, that made it look as if you actually had all of the chances.
So we did,
But you were kind of doing that thing where it was like, how many shots on target can we get that go just wide, both to the left, to the right, and above?
So basically,
kind of one of them.
So the first half, when we say all of the chances, there were 2 in that first half. One fell to Gross very early on. He was dropped right in the bottom of the box, and he tried to sort of just tuck it in, but there was so many defenders around him. I think it deflected and went out, and that was it was a half chance, I would say. The best chance probably came with a really nice interaction between Welbeck and Matoma, like a 1-2 into the box. Matoma doing his lovely little jinking run onto Welbeck, who passed it back to him into the space. Matoma, with a defender and the goalkeeper at an angle, it's an opportunity, but he put it past the keeper, but also unfortunately past the post. And
that would have been a lovely goal. That would have been, and I hate to say it, but that would have been a lovely goal. And it looked, the build-up play on that one, mate, was superb.
It was,
and that was superb.
That was the absolute highlight of the whole half, and I think that was really it. That was over and done with after that opportunity, and that was off target. The Gross opportunity was off target, and really, we got to the second half, and to be fair, it was 45 minutes wasted of my life that I'm never going to get back. It really was. Second half comes out, little more energy, as we always have when we come out in the second half, that whole big sort of like, come on, boys, we're going to really try now. And we certainly had the majority. Come on, boys, let's do this. Come on. We certainly had the majority of the possession, as always, and we had few more sort of like territorially, we had more of the ball and things like that. But ultimately, it was just still nothingness, and we just look so slow, as we always do at the moment. And the stalemate really just continued, and it didn't really change until we made some changes. And the major change that we made was obviously bringing Minte on. Now, why he's on the bench, I don't know. I'm hoping it's just because they're nursing him back from the injury. Maybe his minutes have got to be managed. I'm not really sure. But having Minte on the pitch with Matoma the other side, it completely changes the way we play because the defenders can't work out which way we're going to go. And the speed on both sides of the wings, so it makes such a big difference. Everton were obviously sitting back in a low block like most teams do and had it so easy for most of the game. Minte comes on and suddenly there's an opportunity, if we wanted to hit it long over the top. And it was just, it
so many more
game.
outlets with him on the pitch, right?
Exactly.
So many more outlets. And you were, when he came on, you were less predictable, I guess, is my presumption on that.
I think that's a really good way of putting it. And I think, he made a difference. And then also Kostoulas coming on about 10 minutes later as well, made a big difference as well. Nothing against Welbeck. It just wasn't his game. It was just one of those games for him. He didn't really get involved or anything. It just didn't happen for him.
From what I saw from that game, he did get himself into plenty of good opportunities, and he was in the right place at the right time. It just didn't happen, did it, for him?
I think so. I think it was just one of those games. But he didn't have like loads of opportunities. He had like he had a half chance of a header. Like it just wasn't. Brighton just weren't creating. Like we just didn't have those many chances or anything from that perspective. I think we ended up with 11 shots, only 2 on target.
2 on target.
2 in a game at home, against a sitting back low block, and we only managed 2 shots on target. Look,
do you know what though? Them stats are a bit. I don't know. From the highlights, I say you watched all the dross in between it, but I just watched the big moments. But the shots on target that I saw, I mean, the shots on target stat is harsh because it's like it should almost be chances created in my mind because there's I don't know, like. You're talking millimeters in it at an angle, and that so I look at it and go, you had probably 5 or 6 genuinely good big chances in that game that you missed, and were, we're talking fine margins. Actually,
I don't even think there was that many. From my point of view, I didn't feel like it watching it. I mean, maybe on the TV they made them look better, but to me, it was a pointless reason to turn up. I should have just turned up on the hour mark, maybe when Minte came on the pitch. But look, let me just talk about the goal. The one bit of quality that we had throughout the whole game, probably, and that was a lovely move.
Was that the assist that you gave them? The one bit of quality, or was it the other way around?
Really? We're okay, sorry. There, are we?
Okay.
73 minutes, we do take the lead. And it's a nice little passing move. We get a Yari onto the edge of the penalty box. He puts it across very quickly, low-driven cross. And Kostoulas, who's not going to get the assist for it, but should do, gets a wonderful dummy and completely fools the defender, and Gross is behind him and puts it away. It's a simple goal. It's one of those, like, it just looks so simple, but actually it takes a lot of timing to be in those positions at that moment. And I just thought Kostoulas just again shows his maturity of that age.
Mate, you say it's a simple goal. You're absolutely right. From the outside looking, it's a simple goal. But to have a kid of that age, I rewatched it back a couple of times just to work out what happened there. And for his awareness of where Pascal Gross was, without and he didn't look at him before. He did not see where he was. He just knew where he was. So I think credit where credit's due. That was quite an achievement to take a risk, because it's a massive risk, mate, to just not go for it, isn't it? And to purposely leave it. But he knew exactly where he was, and obviously, great. Fair play to him.
It was great, and I loved that moment. And actually, you get to 73 minutes, you score the goal, and you're thinking now to yourself, well, okay, we haven't been great. Everton haven't been great. If we can sneak a win here, like we'll take it all day long. Obviously,
Well, I thought you were going to.
Well, we all did, mate. Obviously, and there was a free kick just outside the box, and Albion Pascal Gross takes it, hits it over to the far post, right? And Dunk is at the far post and heads it back across, and it gets back into the box, and there's a little bit of a melee in the box, but basically it comes out to Matoma around about the penalty spot, curls it in. 2-0, we're all jumping up and down, loving it. And then we notice that there's your face. Then we notice that there's a flag up, and I don't know. I understand why they gave it, right? So apparently VAR checked it as well, and the situation is that when we kicked it over to the far end and Dunk got onto the end of it, Veltman was basically holding the defender away from Dunk, like everybody does. They hold someone to stop them running onto the ball or whatever. But I don't know
if everyone does, mate. But,
well, you know what I mean. There's a lot of that goes on these days, don't they, in the box and stuff. And because he was therefore in an offside position when he was doing that, they suggested he was interfering with play. And you know what? I get it. It's like, it's fine. I understood it. It was annoying, but at the same time, I understand it. It's just I don't always see that happening. I don't always see people given for that.
Oh, mate, it's the inconsistency of it. But absolutely, Veltman did interfere with play, because if he hadn't have done that, like by doing that, did he get an advantage? Yes, he did.
Yeah, I understand.
So no goal, mate. Sorry.
And listen, mate, we are 75, 77 minutes at that point, and we're 1-0 up at home. We should shut up shop and we should just get on with it. We should stop it from now on. We should be going down on the ground injured. We should be having cramp. We should be kicking the ball off. We should be taking 10 minutes to take a throw in. We know the rules. That's how we should be doing it. But for some reason in this game, no, we decided to continue to play. And, it's not that I love shithousery, but at the end of the day, sometimes you need to do that. It was a horrible game. We'd managed somehow to scrape a 1-0 lead. And it was like, let's just take that, yeah? Let's just not let anything else happen for the rest of the game.
I felt like Everton, after that happened though, they had I feel like they kind of got a second wind, because
they had to. It was a first wind, Andy. They didn't even have a second wind. This was the first wind. They actually had a go.
But this is the thing. They actually had a go at you. So I think you're putting all the emphasis on you guys not shutting up shop. But also, I feel like they kind of got the wind beneath their wings a little bit and started coming at you. So yeah, and that's what that's what I watched anyway.
I never thought I'd hear a Bette Midler quote on here, but yeah. So
I could
think
sing it if you want.
No, please don't.
Okay.
I think, look, it was, they had their chances. You're right. There was a few chances here or there. I think we did okay, but we were so open still. We were looking for the second goal, and most of the time, I would argue that a lot of the time that makes sense because you want to kill the game, don't you? 2-0 up with 5 minutes play or something, it's completely different. I mean, we'd still find a way to draw it probably, but it changes the game. I think the issue that I had with it was, it goes back to what I said right at the beginning of this, which is the switching off element to this. And we had 6 minutes of injury time. We had played 6 minutes of injury time. On the 95th and 50 seconds, Fabian Herzler makes a substitution and brings on Milner and takes off Gross, okay? I don't have a problem with that. It's time wasting. It's just something to try and get us over the line. So I totally get that, right? So Gross goes off. He gets pushed off on the other side of the pitch, so he has to walk around, like they do, right? So we can't time waste there. But Milner comes on, fine. We've wasted a few seconds. Play then continues, and obviously, because we've had a substitution, we play on, right? And we must have played on for maybe another 45 seconds, 50 seconds, a minute at the most, right? And literally in the last 10 seconds of the game, they get an opportunity and they score. And we know what happened. Shot from outside the box, gets parried by Verbruggen. No one is switched on apart from Van Hecker in the middle. And they all just watch him coming in and put the ball in the back of their Beto. And it is one of the most frustrating things to watch because when the ref restarts the game, he blows the final whistle. I mean, I'm talking 5 seconds. He blows the final whistle. Do you know what I mean? And this has happened a few times this season, as I mentioned at the beginning. Fulham twice. Villa is another one. And there are just these occasions where we're just switching off, and it's not good enough. And overall, the game, I don't think we deserved to win it. I think a point actually was fair. I think both teams, if were trying not to win it almost in some respects. It was an awful game. And I think we tried a little bit in the second half, but ultimately I think a point was probably the right decision.
Who was it that switched off, Neil? Because that loose pass that they intercepted, it was quite something, to be fair. It was perfectly weighted as well.
I think I'm not going to literally name names because I think there are enough players on that pitch. If someone makes a dodgy pass, someone else should be diving in. The thing I had an issue with out of all of it, and this is where the consistency comes in, Andy, is the shot that was taken. Tarkowski is in an offside position and he swerves himself out of the way to get out of the way of the shot. And it's like, okay, so he doesn't play the ball, but he certainly has an impact on the goalkeeper because he can see a player right in front of him. So there's an element there of like, you're in an offside position, surely. Like, I'm just saying, like it's.
I think you're clutching at straws a bit there.
I am a little bit. I am a little bit.
No, but as in, I get it because yes, he was in an offside position, and again, I watched this a few times, but in that situation, they would see it. Like, has he impeded the view of the goalkeeper? Has he actually interfered in play? And it was deemed that he hadn't. And I guess I get it because everyone feels hard done by, and you deal with that situation in your head, and you go nah. And if you're getting decisions that are kind of fringe decisions, ones that like you're just not expecting, then I guess, and then something like that happens, you're kind of like, well, hang on a minute. But also, he was offside, but the rules of the game do state that if you're not interfering in play and you haven't anything to do with it, then So I guess, Neil, mate, you're wrong.
There's a lot of people that would there's a lot of people that would argue that he was interfering with play. But look, the bottom line is 1-1, and it was so frustrating to not lose a game, but it felt like we lost a game at that point. Pascal Gross spoke after the game, and he was obviously and clearly frustrated, like a lot of people. I want to read out a couple of his quotes because I think this speaks volumes, right? So he says, it's about game management. So consider this, remember, he was walking around the pitch as they scored, right? He was off the pitch. He says, it's about game management. I know we have a lot of young players, but we as a team need to do better. You need to understand what time of the game it is. We can't play the same if it's the 10th minute or the last minute of the game. If we're 1-0 up or 1-0 down, there's different ways to play. There are certain ways you have to do it. You win one more throw, you take the pace out of the game. You need to play it smart, and we need to grow fast. It's quite strong words, I thought. And, it's clearly frustrated. And
I guess he's owning it.
Well, I agree. The thing that frustrated probably a lot of fans was the fact that then Fabian Hürzeler comes out and he's the way he answers a lot of the questions. It's always, well, that's football. And it's like, well, we'll learn from it. Well, how are we? Are we learning from it? Where are we learning from it? Where is this getting better? This scenario of us switching off at the last minutes of the game and conceding late goals, because at the moment I can't see us getting better. That's where we are, mate. I won't go on about it now because it's done, but it's just frustrating. What I would say, when you look at form and how we're doing at the moment, I was taking the mickey out of you the last few weeks, obviously with Palace's bad form.
Quite rightly.
Now, right, if I look at it since the 1st of December, right, we've played 11 Premier League games, won 1. Drawn 6, lost 4. So depending on your outlook, you can say we've won once in 11 Premier League games, or you can say we've only lost once in our last 6 Premier League games. Depends how you look at it. The point is we're drawing far too many games, and we are not being able to put teams away. They know that they've got an opportunity to get something out of a game until the 97th minute. It's that simple. And it's just a frustration, and I don't think it's going to suddenly change now. And so I've resigned myself a little bit to this season just being one of those seasons where we have to just win a few, lose a few, draw a few, or draw a lot, I should say. And that's that.
Well, let's hope it doesn't improve too quickly, given our next fixture, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, well, listen, look, let's talk about the Palace game quickly as well, because although we haven't got long left, I think it's important to talk about the game itself. It was on the Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was on the Sunday. It was deemed by Palace fans as a must not lose game. Mostly must win, but I was kind of must not lose. It felt like with the situation as it was, and where Nottingham Forest were below us, we can't afford to lose against teams that are below us.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
If we had have lost, we're not in the relegation zone, but we are. That gap gets less, and obviously then Forest would have gone above us. So I think it was quite an important game. Lineups wise, Will Hughes and Pino started. Obviously Mateta wasn't in the right place to play. That right place being Selhurst Park. He was actually in Paris trying to do a deal with Milan. Adam Walton was serving a suspension for his 2 yellow cards, ridiculous, against the dirty Chelsea. Chadi Riyad started for the first time in over a year, which was lovely to see. Really, really pleased with that. And also very pleased, by the way, just to note that he hasn't gone out on loan. I think he was meant to be going to Sheffield Wednesday. And obviously the club have decided against that, which is great. And Sarr ended up leading the line for Palace in the absence of a recognised number 9. So it was either Uche or Sarr, and he decided to go with Sarr instead. And obviously Uche replaced him later on. No, he didn't actually. He came on as well later on in the game.
Right.
So first half-wise, I think Palace had the first chance of the game. Pino broke free and Hughes had this kind of shot blocked. And I think my very early thoughts were, okay, all right, we might be all right here. The boys look all right. We're kind of doing all right. Yeah. And Lerma then picked up the loose ball, shooting, and forced a really good save from the keeper. So, within minutes, we had a really good chance. We created something good. Keeper saved it. You're thinking, all right, this is all right. And then Forest have their first real attack. Why was it their first real attack? Because we were only 6 minutes in. And they took advantage of, hang on, what would it be? Oh, yeah, a long throw situation. And Gibbs White, after being held hostage by Marinakis earlier on in the season and made him sign a new contract, he made them take the lead. And I think, look, Again, you can't argue it because they got the better of us. Very frustrating though, because them early few minutes, I felt like we had the right mindset, and then that happens.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mess in there, wasn't it? I mean, you needed a good defender like Mark Gahey or something to get rid of it. He would have been perfect.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, Gay scored an own goal this weekend, so he's not perfect himself, is he? Anyway, look, the boys carried on pushing forward, and I think the one thing, if you're going 1-0 down and with a run of form like us and all the stuff that's happened, would have been very easy to have lost this game 5-0. So, look, they carried on pushing forward, and actually what ended up happening was the game was opening up more and more, and I don't know how much of this game you saw, but at this point, it was very much end to end to end to end. Lots and lots of chances being created. Lacroix had a really good chance shortly after, and he headed the ball brilliantly, just narrowly over the bar. And then I think Sarr had a good opportunity in front of goal, but he opted to pass instead of shoot. He was pretty much through, and he opted to pass it in to no one because there was no one there. Really genuinely a golden opportunity, but then our luck would change from a corner. Lerma, I don't know if you saw this, but Lerma leaped up like a genuine salmon. It was beautiful to see. All the way up and headed it goalwards. The attempt, unfortunately, being saved off the line by Nico Williams, not the goalkeeper.
Man. It was a good save, to be fair. He did well to get to it.
Do you know what? It reminded me of when we used to play football in the park.
Yes.
It was that kind of save, wasn't it? It didn't look like a keeper save. It looked like a 16-year-old schoolboy save. Or maybe even a 12-year-old schoolboy.
But I think that's a really good example, actually, because we've all done it. It's that instinct, isn't it? Just to put your arm out and stop the goal without really thinking about it. And it was... it was a proper old-fashioned outfield player save. And in the old days, you might have got away with it, but without cameras on the pitch now.
Oh, also, it's just his face after he did it. What? I didn't do anything. And he's like, quick, hands, just the guilty look and the look of, that's so embarrassing. And to be fair, I did feel for him a little bit because you're like, mate.
But and happy days, you get a red card against them and down to 10 men and a penalty.
And the other person I felt bad about, by the way, in that situation was Lerma, because he was about to score a really good goal. And I think that, he had a brilliant game, by the way, Lerma. I'm really, really pleased with him. He was really trying hard and was the player that was just putting in the biggest shift. Anyway, look, the penalty, Sarr coolly made the keeper commit the wrong way. So in essence, he did that thing which a lot of people try and do but don't do very well, where they don't take an amazing penalty. In fact, it was quite average. He just hit it down the middle. But he did it brilliantly, where he made the keeper commit, which was lovely. So the keeper committed to his right all the way, and obviously just slotted it down the middle. 1-1, game on, half time. Second half, then Forest, obviously, with down to 10 men, I would say we were controlling the majority of the possession, which obviously... I don't know how comfortable I feel about that, to be fair, because we don't quite know what to do with it. We were creating chance after chance after chance. But Forest was still incredibly dangerous on the counter-attack, right? Because even though Forest is struggling to score goals, they're great at getting it from their own box into the other box and will just cut you open. Yeah. So Glasner went all out, right? Went for bust and took Chadi Riyad off, more so because obviously he's only just come back. I think obviously he needs game time, but we don't want to overdo it. They brought him off and then replaced him with Uche, right? Defender off, striker on. More attacking setup, but still no way through. And this is just a fine example, once again, Neil, of us not being able to break down a low block.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to say it because... ironically, the red card created the situation where Nottingham Forest didn't attack anymore. So created the situation where you had the ball and you couldn't beat a low block. It was just the perfect scenario working against you.
Mate, but this is the problem, and this is why I am genuinely not one of them people that thinks we're probably going to win the Conference League this year. I'd love to, but like you're playing against teams that will do that day in, day out. We struggled with the Holiday Airport Larnaca. We struggled with some other teams in there as well. And every time we get in this situation, all we do is we pass the ball sideways from side to side. You try and get it up one of the wings. It gets blocked off. It goes back to the midfield. It goes back to the defence. Then they press forward. It goes back to the keeper. And then we go back around the whole cycle again because we weren't using the width of the pitch. We were trying to push the ball in areas that were crowded and clearly were truthfully they were better players. There were better players in midfield that were going to be able to challenge for the ball, and we weren't playing to our strengths. We lacked the edge. We lacked the pace to move quick enough. And that's my biggest thing, actually. When you watch that game and you watch all the games that we've lost in this situation against a low block, where we are, where you try and draw them in, right? You try and draw the other team in to create that little bit of space to then break, right? And as soon as we get the ball to break, whoever gets that ball initially takes too long for that forward pass. There's always a sideway pass or whatever it would be. And when Palace were at our best, that ball was going straight from defence or, defensive midfield, cutting straight through or going straight to the side. Someone was beating a man, and before you know it, you're in the box. So there's two things that aren't happening. The quick break and also the fact that everyone's a bit scared to take on a man. Now we've got Muniz back, great, and Sarr back. But don't forget, Muniz has only just come back from injury. He's not fully up to speed yet. So just a little bit of a lack of urgency from my part there. So I think...
Can I just ask on that? Just on that. So obviously, you lost Eze in the summer, right? And you've brought Pino in. Now, of all the players on the pitch, Pino is the one, I would say, that has the ability to take on a player, find a pass, do something a little bit out of the ordinary, or create something out of nothing. And in a situation like you had on Sunday, surely you would be looking to him to do that. What happened with him on Sunday? Did he play well? Did he not create? Like, why were you stuck so much with that situation?
Mate, I just struggle. I struggle a little bit with Pino because whilst he has moments of brilliance and you can see what he's trying to do, he's just not. He's struggling, I think, still struggling to cope with the physicality of the Premier League. And and I think we're probably about to see that next week as well against Brighton, where you're going to bully him, and he gets very frustrated very easily. He truthfully, well, I looked at it and I tried to look at it quite subjectively actually at the weekend on Sunday in that game, and I thought that what happens is they niggle at him, right, and they'll stamp on his foot, they'll barge him, they'll stick an elbow in, and he reacts. And this is the issue. So
he did, didn't he, on Sunday? He had a little moment where he almost bit, and he squared up.
He got a yellow card. But you then watch that back, and the referee had actually realised that he got that wrong. The other player actually started the fight, gave him a really good shove.
But it's the reaction, Andy, isn't it? That's the problem. It's the reaction.
I don't know. I don't understand why a reaction's worse than the initial action. That's the bit that I don't quite get.
I agree with that. But I mean, the point is that the reaction now also creates situations where other teams see that, and they're going to continue now to niggle him, continue to kick him and things. And that's the worry.
It's a perfect problem for other teams, isn't it? Where you've got a player where you've got who's easily knocked off the ball because they're small. He's got the physique of a 15-year-old, right? And then you've got the other issue, which is that he's easy to wind up. So I think he is a really look, he's a Spain international, right? He's a really talented player. He's got to work out where he fits into our system, and we've got to make sure that the rest of it supports him. I think at the moment we are solely relying on him and Sarr. Now Sarr's back, I think we're less so. I think in order for him to turn into a game changer, I think things need to change around him. But look, let's see how we get on with that one. But I thought Lerma did really, really well. I think that my big things on this game, just to summarise, here's an interesting stat, which is terrifying, which is that we didn't register a single shot on target after the penalty at the end of the first half.
Wow.
That shows you how frustrating that is.
Yeah, you only had 3 shots on target. That's crazy for playing against 10 men. But, I can't really sit there and say too much because that's exactly the type of thing that Brighton have been doing recently. You were just saying it, like, side to side, side to side, can't get through. It's one of the biggest problems I think teams of our sort of size at the moment are not being able to do, and it's a real struggle. I think it's, I was very surprised that you didn't win that game, having had the advantage you had for so long. I thought something was going to give. Do you know what I mean?
It was the golden opportunity for us to get ourselves out of our rut. But truthfully, if we hadn't have gone down to 10 men, I do think it would have been a completely different story. Not in a positive way for Palace. I thought that they started to get the better of us very quickly, and our heads went down. And I think that if that penalty hadn't have happened, I don't know. I mean, look, we would have been. Look, if he hadn't handballed it, it would have been 1-1. And of course that changed the game, and then you just don't quite know what would have happened. But I did feel that Forest had the edge, and actually they were I mean, look, you can slate your own team, but you've also got to give the opposition a bit of credit. I mean, Forest were brilliant in defence, and they didn't let us through. They were well organised. We lacked the physical.
Andy, you had to win that, really. You said it, mate, like last week. It was a must-win game. So
we've lacked the physical presence once again in a game to compete. And that's what really concerns me for next week, mate, because you guys are not the most pleasant to play against, especially in that situation. And I think we've lost that edge over the last 6 months where we are, strong enough on the ball, able to deal with the niggling, all the other situations and the managing of the game. I don't know. I think, more efforts on goal and more touches in the opposition box, yet not a single shot in target for the second half and an extra man. And we took a defender off and put another striker on. I mean, something's not right there. All we can hope is that these additions that we've now got from the transfer window will make a bit of a change. But, I mean, look, we've stopped the rut. I think it would have been 4 straight losses. It's now 3 and a draw. So, I mean, the world is playing nicely into our hands for our first win in a while next week, right?
This is right. So let's talk about this, right? So we asked both teams, right? Let's talk about the table to start with before we talk about Seagull Eagle Day 2, right? So you're quite right. You just said you're sitting in 15th in the table, which sounds terrible, and it's pretty terrible.
No,
Brighton are 13th, which pretty terrible. You've got 29 points. Brighton have got 31 points. So Crystal Palace currently gap between 15th and 18th, which is currently West Ham. So in case anyone's worried about relegation, right? So let's just double check. 20 points West Ham have. So you are 9 points above West Ham currently.
Yeah. But also, you've got to have a look at the form down at the bottom 3. A couple of them are actually better than us in terms of form.
So when you look at form, like there's people are picking up points now. West Ham have got 2 wins in their last 3. Nottingham Forest have got 2 wins, 2 draws in their last 4. Like they're picking up points constantly, at least. Leeds aren't too bad.
It's not a concern now. It's not a concern now. But I think that was my point about this game, which is that if we lost this game, it's genuinely not starting to look good. So there we go. And I think we've got some fixtures that are coming up that are potentially winnable. Not necessarily talking about next week because I don't. But I think, look, I mean, we're still without a victory in 12 matches. Let's not forget that. However, we have wiped the slate. We have wiped the slate clean a little bit.
Right.
Got there third time lucky, and. The only issue is do the team want to play for Glasner anymore? I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, I think that's it, isn't it, really? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Seagull Eagle Day 2. I would have been much more excited, and I'm sure you would have been, if we'd had some results recently. I think at the moment, I think both of us feel like if there's an opportunity for both teams to lose next week, that could happen. Like, it's crazy. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's a way that we could find it, that probably could happen. That's how bad.
Given what's happened to Palace over the last year, I think we could be the first team to make that happen.
Yeah,
I'm
trying to get excited about Seagull Eagle Day 2. We should. It's our brand, right? But currently.
Okay. Hang on, though, Neil. Hang on. If both of our teams were on unbeaten runs going into this, everyone would be like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. And I am.
So both our teams are doing absolutely awfully at the moment and can't pay for a win. And you're struggling with late goals. We're struggling with goals and wins. So I guess what's the difference, right? We're both having a horrible time. If we're both having a great time, it's still a head-to-head, isn't it? So, and actually, this one, once again, means like it was last time when we met, this actually means quite a lot because Palace win, we go above you in the league, right?
Well, that's a good point. That is a very good point, yeah.
So there's a reason to get excited about Seagull Eagle Day. And I mean, it actually genuinely does make a difference. And it means that Palace stop the rot, we go above you in the league, and we win our first game in 15 games or something. I mean,
honestly, mate, this is prime Brighton. This is prime Dr. Brighton next week. If we lose to Palace, give you the opportunity to do your first win at the Amex. Honestly, I don't think I'll be able to stand it. I honestly, we can't lose this game, and I think that's my concern about the game. The fact that the fear of losing for both sides, I think the fear of losing will cause it to be a bore fest, and it'll be like a 0-0 or something. I really hope it's not, but that's my worry. Do you know what I mean?
One thing you won't get out of me in this podcast is a prediction.
No.
Because last time I did that,
it's going to be goals.
I said there was going to be goals. And I said it live on BBC Radio. Fair point. But mate, honestly, I can't tell you truthfully, and I know that, doing this podcast, we should come up with more than this, but truthfully, I could not tell you what's going to happen next week. What I do know is that I'm not as confident as I was when we were going into it last time. I think there's a potential Kamada might be back. Walton's back from suspension.
Oh, good.
Obviously, we got Gesand, who's I'm assuming potentially in the lineup. You got Strand Larson. I mean, the problem is, right, we've got people coming back, and that team sheet it will look the best it's looked in 3 months. Is the truth. However, none of them would have played with each other.
No, but that's a really good point, actually. I mean, if I look at it from a Brighton perspective, that's another good point. We don't really have many injuries, right? We've got Gomez, who had a bit of a knock, so we don't know what's going to happen with him. With a bit of luck, he's still injured. Everyone else, though, everyone else is relatively fit that we haven't sent out on loan or anything. So we've got Matt O'Reilly back, having played Champions League football this season. Pascal Gross obviously back. Like, I don't know, but there is an opportunity where we're going to have an absolutely stacked bench, and everyone's going to be fit apart from maybe Weaver. That's about it, I think, is the only one that's still got an injury at the moment. So he'll have all the choice, he'll have all the choices to play. And one little point I would say, going back to what you were saying about Pino and the league and like people picking on him and all those sorts of things, I think we've got one like that as well in Maxim de Kuyper.
Yeah, I agree.
He's struggling with the physicality of the league. This weekend, obviously just gone, he played left back, right? Do you know? I looked at his stats. Do you know how many tackles he made?
2. None.
0 tackles, and it looked like that as well. He wasn't going in. He just looks lightweight at the moment, and he looks tired every time he plays. I don't think he quite can get the speed of the game yet. Now, look, he's a very good player attacking-wise, but defending-wise, on that right side, for you, I think you're going to have a field day on that side if he plays left-back. We'll see. Hopefully, Veltman plays instead, and Ferdy plays on left-back, but...
Got to get it over that side first.
Well,
that's kind of backwards and forwards. But no, I think if it's an open game, it plays into us. I think my question is going to be, what's your big man going to do with the tactics? Is he going to overthink it? I think, as I said, our team sheet is going to be probably the most impressive one we've had for a while. But and I mean, look, we have got a whole week as well, right? With this whole midweek football thing isn't a thing anymore for now, not for at least another couple of weeks. So let's hope it's the same sort of scoreline that it was last time we played you at the Amex. Can you remember what that was?
No, I can't. Sorry, it's been wiped from my memory. I can't remember. Sorry.
Beat you 3-1, mate.
Sorry, you're
February
breaking
2024.
up. I can't hear you. Sorry, you're breaking up.
Mate, I'm in no situation to play, so don't you worry about that. But yeah, anything could happen. I'm looking forward to it. But also, the sad thing is, mate, I haven't been able to get a ticket. I did try.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
mate.
I tried. So,
well, listen, I'm in the posh seats for this one. So this is my...
you're in the cucumber sandwich brigade.
Yeah, I'm in hospitality for this because of my birthday.
You've changed.
I know, I got it as a gift. I'm very lucky. So I'm going to be swearing from the expensive seats and screaming at people. So that's going to be fun all around me. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see what that ends up like. Hopefully I don't get kicked out at half time. But we'll be back here next week to talk about all of whatever it was that happened in Seagull Eagle Day.
Something tells me one of us won't want to turn up.
I got a feeling that as well, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll have to wait and see. But listen, that's it for this week on Seagull Eagle. Thank you very much for listening.
Make sure you follow the show to not miss the next episode. That'd be awful.
That would be awful, especially when it's Seagull Eagle and everything.
Yeah, of all the ones to miss.
You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and X and YouTube. Just search Seagull Eagle and get the conversation started.
Or if you want to, you could write us a letter. But I'd recommend against that because we don't have an address and I'm not giving it out.
Definitely not.
But you should send us an email at seagullEaglePodcast@gmail.com.
But until next week and Seagull Eagle Day, we have to do this every week. See